Alright guys, we're going to go ahead and start with some capital letters. We're going to call these ones our frog jump capitals. And that just means that each one of these letters has a starting corner where you can see this little dot here. We can call that our starting corner. Okay? You're going to make one big line down. You can see here. Then you are going to frog jump and jump all the way back up to the top, which you guys can see here. So we've jumped to the top where our little starting corner is. You make one small line across, come down about halfway, and you'll make your second line across. And that is our letter F. So we have a lot of practicing to do here. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to help me trace over these so that you can get prepared to draw or to write them on your own. So we'll start up here with our dot. Okay, we have our dot. We'll make one big line down, jump back up to our starting dot, make one line across, come down about halfway, and make another line across. Then you can do it with, they have pictures of wood here, it looks like. So you have your one big block of wood here. You have it started at the starting point, which is the little smiley face. You jump back up to the top and add your second piece of wood, your first small wooden piece across. And then you add a second piece of wood about halfway through. And then they also show you that you can do it with a chalkboard. You can get a chalkboard and a piece of chalk and do the same thing. You'd start at the top with your starting point, draw one big line down, jump back up to your starting point, and draw your first line across, and then about halfway through you draw your second line across. So now we are going to go ahead and practice some of these. You can tell that there are some of these F's that are already on the paper for us, and what I want you to do is when we come to those, I want you to practice tracing them so that the box next to it you can practice all on your own. Okay, so we're going to start up here at the top with our little starting point, trace one big line down, jump all the way back up to our dot, draw our first line across, come down about halfway through, and draw our second line across. So now it's our first time for you to be on your own. So let's try this together. Following our directions, we're going to start up here at the top with our dot. Draw one big line down. Jump back up to the top. Make your first line across, come down about halfway through, and draw your second line. Then we have another one that we're going to trace. So we're going to start up here at our starting point, trace one big line down, jump back up to the top with our starting point, our first line across, come down about halfway, and draw our second line across. So here is our next one. I want to make sure you guys can see me. Sorry. Alright, so we'll have our starting point, draw one big line down, jump back up to the top, draw our line across, come down about halfway, and draw your second line. We're going to trace our next one. We have our starting point at the top, trace one big line down, frog jump all the way back up to the top, create your first line at the top across, to come down about halfway, and create your other line. Then we have our next one we're going to practice on our own. Start up here at your dot, your starting point, draw one big line down, jump all the way back up to the top with your starting point, draw one line across, come down about halfway, and draw your other line across. Okay, we're going to trace again. So we're going to start here at the top, trace all the way down our big line, frog jump back to the top, make our first line across, come down about halfway, and do it again. Now we're going to start at our starting point, make our big line down, frog jump all the way back to the top, make our first line across, come down about halfway, and make our other line across. And we have a second row of these that we're going to go ahead and practice with. So we'll start here and trace this first one. So we'll have our big line down, frog jump back to the top, put the top on, or put our first line across, come down about halfway, and draw another line. Start at our starting point, draw one line down, frog jump back to the top, draw our first line across, go down about halfway, and draw your second line across. And you can see they look exactly the same. And you can help line up your second line around the same area that you see the one that you traced with, if that helps. Okay, so we're going to practice again. So we'll start here at the top, trace down, frog jump back to the top, create our first top line, come down about halfway, and trace our second line. Then we're going to practice on our own, our starting point, big line down, frog jump back to the top, draw your first line across, come down about halfway, draw again. Okay, so now we have another one we're going to practice tracing. Big line down, jump back up to the top, first line across the top, come down about halfway, and create your second line. So now we're going to do it on our own. We have our starting point, big line down, frog jump back up to the top, put the top on, first line, and then come down about halfway and put your second line on. Then you have our last one that we're going to trace. Start our starting point, draw our first line down, frog jump back up to the top, put that top line on, come down about halfway, and go ahead and add your second line. Now we're going to write and check for the letter F. So now you're on your own completely. We don't even have a starting point on this one. If it helps, you can always create your own starting point. Just make a little dot at the top. So then you'd have your starting point, and you draw your big line down, frog jump back to the top, put your top on, about halfway down, create your second line. And that is our letter F.